sobbing in pain because it was unlike anything I've ever felt. And I've had kidney stones and, you know, stuff like that.
But while you're in this pain, you're calling me up saying, I'm sorry, I can't come to town.
Well, actually, when I called you, it was a little bit after the surgery. So while I was still uncomfortable and going through the rehabilitation and stuff, the surgery had happened before that. And what happened was when they did the fusion, they fused C8 and T1 together. And the reason I chose this doctor was he had just done Peyton Manning, who was one of my favorite football players.
You know he's good.
Yeah, so I knew that if he wasn't good, I would know if, you know, if Peyton started having problems, you know. And I was watching him, and I went, this is the guy, you know. And so we went in there, and as he was getting ready to close the surgery up, he found a bone fragment in my spinal cord that had broken off.
They use that dye. You were telling me about that.
Yeah, they put some dye in there when they're done with the surgery, and if it's still living tissue, it absorbs the dye, and if it's dead tissue, like cartilage or bone, it will become bright blue because of the ink. So he's cleaning it out, and all of a sudden he finds this bone fragment the size of a pencil eraser, which, you know, isn't really big, you know, if you're comparing certain things to it, but imagine, you know, like a thorn in a lion's paw, what that would be like, having an eraser-sized bone fragment in your spinal column, pressing against your nerves.
Yeah, for those that don't know, there's that big pink nerve right down the middle that's ecstasy of pain, and this was jammed in there.
It was painful. You know, it had finally come loose, and the guy found it, and I don't have any pain anymore. The guy was great. Robert Watkins in Marina Del Rey.
You before the surgery, you were telling me you literally couldn't walk, but you got challenged to go to the New York Metallica deal, and you did it, and you likened it to a woman whose kid's under the car picking it up.
Yeah, definitely. It was that Herculean strength kind of thing. You know, I was looking at the repercussions for not being able to do the show because, my God, I'm going to have surgery. It's before the concert. You know, the concert's in 2 days. How am I going to have neck surgery, have back surgery, and go to play Yankee Stadium the next day? It's not going to happen. So I said, you know what, I'm going to have to cancel. And somebody called me a derogatory term, and it just made me really mad. And so I told the doctors, I said, wrap me up. I'm going to go do this concert. Because it was really easy to say, well, I've never played a baseball stadium before, but I have. And, well, I've never played with Metallica before, but, well, I have. Well, I've never played in New York. Well, I have. You know, all these things that I've already done. So it wasn't that any one of those things were significant. It was the sum of all the parts. And then getting called out on it. What kind of a lowlife would say something derogatory to a guy laying in an emergency room in a surgery bed getting ready to have spinal surgery? What kind of a gutless coward would say something like that? You know, I know who said it, and I prefer not bringing up his name because I think that it will give him some kind of power trip because, you know, he thought that he had me at that moment, and he didn't. I went out there. I showed up in a neck brace, you know, and everybody's there going like, oh, my God, what's happening? What's happening? I said, well, so-and-so called me this, and, you know, I just want to show him that he's that, you know. And
of course, you told me literally your son came home, and you had to keep, what, one arm up so it wouldn't be. See, I've had just little torn muscles in my back, and I'm in bed, and it's like such pain to get up. I'm falling down on my knees, a muscle. And my dad, you know, as a physician, he goes, son, the worst pain, because he's had it before, is the spinal column and that nerve. He said, don't be, but and so I think of myself as a tough guy. And I've had football injuries and later lifting weights, whatever, where just a little muscle's torn and you can't get out of bed. And trying to get up to go to the bathroom, you're like falling on your knees and of course, here you are like 50 times that. You go get on an airplane and fly and then play at Yankee Stadium.
Well, I love our fans. I love the opportunity to play in front of the New York audience, and I love the opportunity to play in front of Anthrax and Slayer and Metallica's fans because, you know, they all are true to their bands, and it's these great opportunities like this where you can possibly win some new fans, you know.
But it was really about saying, oh, yeah, I'm a wimp, watch this.
Well, that was...
You called it effing...
I'm not going to say what it was, but it was a little bit of a motivator. But you know, I've gone through a lot of stuff over my career, a lot of stuff. I mean, I probably even more traumatizing than my own physical pain that I've had is to watch other people be in pain, like watching people die. You know, I remember we had people die in Castle Donington. We had people die when we did Rock in Rio. you know, we ran over somebody in Atlanta going 60 miles an hour in a taxi, and the guy didn't even want to stop, you know, and it was because he was black. And I was thinking, how on earth can you run a human being over, regardless of their skin color, you know, and not want to stop? And that to me, I went into shock that night. I remember we went into some club called Confetti's or some dive or something like that after that, and I was just kind of walking around the pool tables and just didn't really know where we were, what we were doing. You know, I heard all the cabbies were talking about, yeah, you better send a meat wagon. I hit that sucker right square clean in the head. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm in a time warp. You know, you never believe that you'll actually be part of something like that. And then when it happens, it changes you.
In my experience, that's what real evil is. It's not even conscious of how callous and uncaring it is. And they don't realize, wow, if I'm this callous, nobody's going to care about me or my family.
Well, you know, when you're driving down the road and you hit like a rabbit or something, you know, you get that kind of like, oh man, I just killed an animal. I mean, imagine the energy field that you would feel if you hit and killed a human being, you know, whether it was intentional or not, you're a passenger or a driver or whatever. The difference was so different for us, you know, because the whole thing was a joke. You know, the driver was trying to guess what the band's name was, and he couldn't guess it, and well, anyways, it's a long story.
No, it's an important story because I was telling you how I've run over 2 beautiful jackrabbits that just run out in front of my car out in the country where I live. And you said, hey, you know, that feeling you get, it's almost like, it's not just the adrenaline, you just hit one. You kind of feel like there's little.
Well, it's like the thing I was telling you about with the Cult, the band, the Cult. First CD player I ever got, the first CD I ever listened to was the Cult, It's Electric, which is a great record.
I love the Cult.
Yeah, it's a great band, great band.
My wife gets sick of it on road trips.
Yeah.
It's good driving music for whatever reason.
Yeah, for me, it left an indelible mark because, you know, when you hear something in a different format like that for the first time, it's like, whoa, it's an airplane, you know, this kind of thing. And I remember they had this huge controversy because they had taken a picture of a Native American youth, and the Native Americans supposedly, as far as I know, believe that if you take their picture, you're capturing a piece of their soul. And for me, you know, I love our fans, but ever since cell phones became cameras, it's become more intrusive with taking pictures, you know, and I don't mind talking with them or, you know, visiting with them or anything. But there's dudes out there that show up with stacks of records. They don't know, you know, what my middle name is. And they pretend to be fans, get us to sign all this stuff, and then they go and sell it. You know?
It's disrespect.
It would be cool if they said, look, you know what, man, I'm going to sell all this junk. Would you sign it for me? Then we would say, you know what, talk to our management and we'll work something out. But
hey, I've seen people get mad at Ted Nugent for the famous films got like millions of views online of him coming out of a gun show or whatever, and these guys walk up wanting to sign stuff, and he goes, no, what are you selling that for, $100? Give me 25. They're like, no, and he goes, well, then don't ask me to sign it. People are like, oh, look at it, Ted Nugent who I've interviewed. He's a nice fellow. I don't agree with all his politics, but he's like sitting there, you know, telling them just nicely, no. They have stacks of them. And he goes, I found out you guys are selling all this. I have a story with Charlie Sheen. I'm walking out of this restaurant with him, you know, nice fellow, like to, you know, politics and things, had some trouble, but he stops and signs one record of some other thing, and he signs a photo, and it's not even his record. And then he signs some poster of his TV show, and there's like 8 of these guys lined up. And he signs one, and the guy goes, more, sign more. And he goes, no. And then they get mad and start chasing him to our car, you know, getting on our face. And it's like he is sitting there signing and signing and signing and signing. And then they're mad when he won't sign more.
Yeah, there are some people who have got between the musicians and the fans. It's not hard to do because, you know, they know a couple key songs. They know your name and they act excited. But you can tell, I play a flying V, and guys come up and ask me to sign a Stratocaster pickguard. Well, that's kind of notorious in America, as far as I know, unless you're just visiting this planet. You know, if you got a pickguard, which is that little plastic cover on the front of your guitar, and it's for a Stratocaster, I don't play a Strat. I play a V guitar, and it doesn't have that pickguard on it, first off. And second off, when they've got dozens and dozens of the same picture, you know, amongst they usually show up in groups of 3 too, you know.
Oh, well, the Sheen thing, it was like 8. Like I said, it was some record from the 80s from a movie. It was like the sound, you know, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And then it was like one guy and then another guy. I mean, that's why I couldn't live in Los Angeles, because I'm, you know, nobody but a media person. But it's just all that paparazzi took being hunted.
People move there to get that because, you know, they want to be an actor or they want to be a musician. You know, we moved away from Los Angeles to Arizona and moved out back to California after the lawsuit with me and Dave, which was, like I said, a great happy ending with that. And you know, we're looking at what's going on right now with the economy and with just the way that the world is right now. And you know, my parents had lived in Canada for a little bit of some time, and I had some Finnish ancestry, and we've been honestly weighing our options about, you know, what are we going to do? Because if things, if America turns into what it appears from all intents and purposes it's going to turn into, I won't have a job, I won't have a house, I won't have any savings, and it's not my chicken, it's our chicken. You know what I mean? But I wanted to tell you this other thing, too, when you said Charlie Sheen, he's going to be in Brazil when we go down and do our festival. He's going to be on the night, or 2 nights before us. For the one night. He's playing, it's a 3-day festival down there, and I just found out he was going to be on the first show, and I was like, nuh-uh.
Why are you so incredibly popular in Latin America, but also in Romance languages, Spain, Italy, just everywhere?
I think it's because of the classical approach towards the music. You know, classical music was written on a piano, and it was not written on a guitar. So if you transcribe classical to guitar and you can make it work, it just has a really cool sound to it. You know, the fans down there, there's certain songs that they really, really like. When we first went down to South America, it was in, I think it was 1992, we did Rock in Rio in front of 140,000 people, and 2 people died there, which is something I was telling you earlier, which it was really sad because, you know, when stuff like that happens, it really changes your headspace when you're getting ready to go on stage. You know, I don't know if you've ever done any kind of an activity where it's been interrupted and you hear like, oh, well, 2 people just died here at the game, or 2 people just died here at the race, or something like that. It changes you.
Well, there's something dangerous and scary about a giant crowd.
Yeah, there's a lot of power out there. I mean, I love going down to Brazil. I love all of the foreign countries that make an effort, you know, to learn English, to be able to understand our lyrics instead of just kind of, you know, singing along. You know, we did a meet and greet the other day. I can't remember what city it was in, but this young man had come up from Mexico. And usually at the meet and greets, you know, they pop up, they take a picture, and they walk to the end of the line, and they go back to their groups, drinking and eating and snacking and all that kind of stuff for the meet and greet party that we were having, I was telling you about. So this guy stops, and he pulls out this letter, and everyone's trying to pull him away from us. And I thought, bless his heart, don't you move him. I'll get so mad if you take this kid away from us right now. He's gone to all the trouble to transcribe his native tongue into English so he can tell us how